Hi, my name is Patrick, and today we're going to be analyzing some malware. So Dan Gooden tweeted about this malicious Chrome extension, and he links to this article from Ars Technica that describes it as impossible to remove, and they recommend using Malwarebytes to remove it. So this extension is called Tiempo and Colombia en Vivo. So we're going to go to a Chrome extension archive, and we're going to search for that name. We need to do this because it's obviously not live on the Chrome store anymore. They've since deleted it because it's malicious. So Tiempo and Colombia en Vivo. So this is a download link right here, but the file that you get from it is corrupt, so you need to go to view source and then download from here. And that'll download our file. Downloads. And then I'm going to use 7-zip to unzip this. Extract to here. So now we have the extension unzipped. So this is what the inside of the CRX file would look like as well. CRX files are just zip files. So this consists of one HTML file, one JavaScript file, 4 images, and the rest of these are just boilerplate Chrome extension stuff. So we're going to take a look at both of the HTML files and the JavaScript file for now. So I'm just going to drag these into Sublime. So this is the HTML file. It consists of a PNG and nothing else. So not even an embedded script. Let's go and check this out in Chrome. Oop, I didn't select that correctly. I'll just take PNG. And what shows up is this image. So nothing special there. This is the JavaScript file. It says it's using jQuery version 3.2.1, and if you look through it, that's true. But then we get to things over here. This is obviously not jQuery. I'm not sure what this is. I think this is just an anti-forensics technique, either to throw you off the trail as per a red herring, or maybe it catches up some virus sniffing programs. I'm not sure. But to find any other changes to this file, because we're obviously not going to look through this line by line, we're just going to download the actual version of jQuery 3.2.1, and then we're going to do a difference of those two files. So we're going to go to Google and type jQuery 3.2.1. We're going to go to the official site and download the unminified source, because that's what they were using in the Chrome extension. So I'm just going to right click, save this as, we'll put it in the same folder as this, and we're going to call it real jQuery 3.2.1, and it'll give it the JavaScript extension. So now we need to find an online file diff, and let's try this one. So we're going to open up the jQuery from the extension, and we're going to put it in this side, and we're going to put our real jQuery file in here so we can copy paste it. Then we're going to put that on the left side, and then find the difference. And because this file is so large, it takes a little bit, but we can see there's 4 sections where they differ. So remember, on the right this is the extension. So here's our console logs. There's another section with more console logs. One more section with these console logs and the array length. And then down here we have, down here we have an actual something. This is obviously obfuscated code. We're going to copy this. Without the line numbers, we're just going to go to line 11,825 in our Sublime here. So I'm going to find that. So here is our malicious code that's embedded in the real jQuery. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to make a new file and just paste it in. I'm not going to worry about these tabs and spaces right now. That's annoying, but we can get over it. So we can see it declares 3 variables. And let's take a look at these functions. So there's g, z, x, and then this other one. So these single letter functions look simple, and we can see that the actual code that gets called is this g function, so that's its entry point. It sets a variable, and then it calls another one. And then all this does is calls this one, so this one might as well not even be there. The x function is interesting. It looks for the screen width plus the screen height, and that stores it in this variable, and it's only referenced right there and there. We're going to call this the fingerprint, so we're going to go find replace fingerprint. And this is likely so that the malware author didn't infect themselves, or they were able to set their screen so that they could test it without infecting themselves. So now we know the fingerprint. So if the fingerprint doesn't match, it's going to set a string. It's going to set this to 1. This is actually over here. That was set to 0, and now it's being set to 1. We're going to call that the whether or not it should actually go. So let's call that fire payload. So now we know 2 of the variables, and now it calls this function. So if it should fire the payload, it does this. We're going to look at this. This is the new XML HTTP request. We're just going to make this easy for ourselves. Call it XML, maybe. Replace all. So it's opening using a GET request. This, which was set down here, we're going to rename this to, let's call this stage 1 file name. Replace all those. So now we can see up here that we have 2 of these variable names sorted out, and now we can continue. So it's going to open the stage 1 file. It's going to take the responses in an array buffer. That's important. It's going to, when the request loads, it's going to check the status, and then it's going to get the response. Let's call this resp, replace all, and then it puts it into a uint8 array. So let's rename this to stage 1 array. That looks good. It's going to set a variable called undefined. That's probably another anti-forensic technique, because that is not really valid, but it'll still run. To string from charcode, apply string to this. So it's converting this uint8 array to a string. And to make this easier, we're going to rename undefined to stage 1 string. Now, now that it has a string, it's going to set something to this variable. It's stage 1 string, substring, index of this, plus 3, stage 1 string this. So it's getting something from in between those two tags. Let's call that stage 1 string. Let's call that substring. And now this last part, var something equals window new function with a string. So let's rename this to stage 1 function. And then all that's left is this, and we know that that is this entire object. I'm not sure if that's the right word for JavaScript, but we're going to call it the stage 1 object. Replace all. And then this last thing is just the function name up here. And so that we're going to rename that to execute. Replace all. So now we have this entire file deobfuscated. So we know what all the variables mean, we know what the functions do. The next step would be to figure out what's going on in this file. So this file is actually one of the icon files. So this is just a white file. It's going to be holding the data that's going to be sorted into this uint8 array, which is then going to be converted to a string. So we could go in with a hex editor or something like that, but I think it would be easier to just copy this function into our own file and then read it in. So we're going to take a look at that in the next video.